We've lined up two of the finest and most popular small SUVs available today, the sophisticated Mazda CX-30 and the funky new Hyundai Kona. Now, the Kona is our reigning small SUV champion from last year, but we want to find out if this all-new second generation model that's just launched is still the king. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment and let us know, do you prefer sleek styling or sci-fi styling? Are you on Team Japan or Team Korea? Both cars on test are top-spec small SUVs, kitted out with loads of safety, technology, and more fruit than a massive orchard. They also have the most powerful engine options available right now. The Hyundai has won our Best Small SUV award for the past 2 years in a row. And guess what was the runner-up both times? Yep, the Mazda CX-30. But there's a twist in the tale because this is the second generation Hyundai Kona, which has been completely renewed and is no longer undercutting its arch rival on price. This top-spec Mazda CX-30 now costs just over $45,000 in Australia right now. And the Kona adds another $1,200. And that's not even including on-road costs, which can add another $3,000 to $5,000. So you're looking at $50,000 cars here. That's a lot of money. Both cars have 5-year warranties, which is pretty standard these days, with some rivals like Kia and GWM Haval offering 7-year warranties. Both have substandard 10,000 kilometre service intervals, but the Mazda will cost about $200 less to service on average over 5 years. The Mazda CX-30 is a tougher looking version of the Mazda 3 hatchback, thanks to its jacked up suspension and bolt-on wheel arches. That's not a criticism because the car's sleek design has won it plenty of fans. The LED headlights and indicators look really swish, while at the rear, the taillights are likewise very stylish. Sporty twin exhaust pipes denote its bigger engine, but it rides on fairly conservative 18-inch alloy wheels. The Hyundai Kona, by comparison, is about as conservative as Nicki Minaj's wardrobe, headlined by this futuristic full-width LED strip integrated into the bonnet line. The rear end features a similar full-width or endless horizon LED light bar in Hyundai speak, and it gets an audacious roof wing and bigger, shinier 19-inch alloy wheels. The Mazda is packing a generously sized 2.5-litre non-turbo petrol engine that should, in theory, deliver slightly sharper, more linear acceleration than the 1.6-litre turbocharged Hyundai engine. But drill into the spec sheet and you'll find the Hyundai has slightly more power and torque. But it's also claimed to use more fuel as a result. We'll find out if that's the case soon enough. The Mazda is front drive and the Kona has a part-time all-wheel drive system and both hook up to conventional automatic transmissions. But the 8-speed cog swapper in the Hyundai outnumbers the Mazda's 6-speed jobby. The Mazda CX-30's interior hasn't really changed that much since it was launched in 2020, yet it's still one of the best in the biz because it has a really neat and tidy layout and a really very classy finish. It's just, oh, I like it. It's ergonomically sound, everything has a premium feel, and you wouldn't be alone in thinking it's a bit like a European luxury car in here. Fit and finish is very good, and almost all the cabin materials have a high quality feel. Given this is a small SUV, the seats are actually pretty good. They're relatively broad, so they're going to fit a lot of different body sizes, and I got to say, they are just lovely. Comfort levels are fantastic, and a big part of that is the leather quality. It is lush. Mazda has done a great job here, but there is one issue, and that is the fact that the front passenger doesn't get a power operated seat. They've got to do all the manual options there, which is not great. Storage is so-so, but everything that's included is beautifully damped and finished, from the concealed cup holders to the sliding central bin. That spit and polish even flows through into the tech, and while the screen is not massive at just 8.8 inches, and it's also not a touchscreen, It is beautifully integrated into the dash. It looks really classy and it's very intuitive. You just use this dial down here and there's a bunch of buttons around that. The setup works really well. The operating system is very good with quick responses, and the way the icons puff up as you scroll through is oddly satisfying. The sat-nav looks a bit dated, but most people will use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You get a top-notch head-up display with loads of relevant info, and the 12-speaker Bose stereo system is fantastic. Really, really high quality audio from that. But the car is beginning to show its age because it's only got USB-A ports. There's no USB-C, which give you faster charging, and also there's no wireless phone charger. There's a small circular digital screen in the driver's display, and while it's not massive and is flanked by analog dials, the effect is quite stylish with a clean, uncluttered look with ultra legible visuals. The reversing camera system is pretty good, nice and clear, and it also has a 360-degree surround view system as well. The back seat in the Mazda is very nice. It's lovely and lush. That leather, I love it. It's so nice. But there is a bit of a sense of claustrophobia, just a little bit. Headroom is fine. Legroom is a little bit tight. I've got a tiny bit of knee room there. Feet go under the seat fine, but yeah, I think taller adults might struggle spending a lot of time back here. And also it's missing out on quite a bit of amenity. There's no storage down here. There's no USB ports, which is pretty sloppy. You do get air vents, Jesus handles, fold out armrest with cup holders and a little pocket there, but not much else. Okay, the Kona. It is so different to the Mazda. It brings that same level of razzle dazzle from the exterior into the interior, and you know, it's ultra modern and I really dig it. It's got this sportiness with the red pinstripes and very, very innovative, the huge screens. And although it's not as clean and simple and elegant as the Mazda, there's still a lot to like here. And I really like the gear shifter too. Took a little bit of getting used to, but when you're going, you don't even have to look at it. It's so intuitive. Forward goes forward, back goes back. Material quality is not as good either. And where the Mazda is all soft touch, there's lots of hard, scratchy plastics on the doors and dashboard, and it just doesn't feel as fancy as the Mazda. The steering wheels and climate controls are super intuitive, but again, they don't have the refined haptics of the Mazda. So while the Mazda takes the lead on the tactility front overall, both cars have 10-way power-operated driver's seats, and while these ones aren't quite as lush, they don't have that beautiful soft leather of the Mazda, they are a little sportier, and they've got the red pinstripe, they've got the red stitching, and you've got heating and cooling, whereas the Mazda only has heated seats, plus the front passenger seat is power operated as well, something you don't get in the Mazda. While the seats are similarly proportioned to accommodate various body sizes, the Kona is around 30mm wider, and this makes it feel a whifter more spacious. In terms of seat comfort and support, there's pros and cons for both. These ones are a little bit wider, the bolsters are a little bit better, but the cushions are a bit firmer and the finishes aren't quite as soft and supple. Overall, both seats are very, very good. The Kona has more storage space and diversity up front, but it's not executed with the same level of panache. The exposed cup holders can be twizzled for extra space, and there's loads of room under here as well, plus a partially open area here and a little shelf on the passenger side, giving the Hyundai more storage real estate. The Kona poops on the Mazda from a great height in terms of infotech, with not one, but two massive 12.3-inch screens. And this one is a touchscreen, which improves the user experience for both the driver and the front passenger. The menu system is on par with its rival in terms of accessing all the car's different features, and having a touchscreen makes it all a lot easier, but not always quicker. It comes with sat-nav and wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the car's software can be remotely upgraded with over-the-air updates. You can also connect your car with your phone via the Blue Link app, which allows you to remotely operate certain controls in the vehicle. Unlike the Mazda and the previous Kona, there's no head-up display, which is a bit of a shame, I reckon. Hyundai says you've got this big screen here, so you don't need it. It's really legible, and that's true, but I really like having all that road speed info and speed limits beamed up onto the windscreen in your line of sight. It really does help while driving. And also the stereo is a Bose system, but it's 8 speakers, not 12. And the audio fidelity isn't quite as good. I don't know whether it's because of the shape of the cabin affects it a little bit. I'm no sound engineer. But some good things, it does get a wireless charge pad, tick, and you do get 2 faster charging, faster data transferring USB-C ports, tick, and check this out. One of the USB-C ports even has adjustable power outputs. That is really cool. I've never seen that before, and I really like it. The reversing camera is clearer and crisper, and is also displayed on a much bigger screen. It's also got more details and doodads, with a clearer 360-degree top-down camera and a 3D multi-view function where you can spin the vehicle all around. You can also get out of the car and use the key fob to park the vehicle remotely, which is super cool. What's not so cool is the key fob itself. It looks and feels really cheap. It's quite plasticky, and I don't know, not a big fan. And while the Mazda has a more premium look and feel, the Hyundai's technological tour de force gives it the edge, along with a few more comfort features like the ventilated seats. When it comes to safety, they're both packing plenty of protective hardware and software, and both have 7 airbags as standard. But the newer Kona adds things like a blind spot video feed with collision avoidance functionality. The first thing I'm noticing in the Kona's rear seat is the upholstery. It's nice, it's this Alcantara suede stuff that you get in the front, but it's not as lavish as in the Mazda. The cushioning's a little firmer and the contouring's not quite as good. But apart from that, this is where I'd want to spend my time if I was being relegated to the back seat. Not sure why that would happen. Maybe I've been a naughty boy. I'm not sure. But the reason being, more headroom, more legroom, and you sit a bit more elevated too. The windows are larger, so it feels less claustrophobic. Plus, there's better amenity. Twin seat back pockets, plus you get the USB-C ports, 2 of them in the back. And like the Mazda, you get the air vents, the Jesus handles, the fold-out armrests with twin cup holders, but one very cool extra, heated rear seats. Thank you very much. Now, both cars also come with ISOFIX and top tether child seat anchorages, so if you're like me and you've got little kids, you can still get the baby seats in there. Both cars have power operated tailgates, but Hyundai reckons its rear hatch is super stubby to make it easier to park in tight car parks. Now, we've measured the Mazda tailgate, and guess what? It's actually more compact. But when it comes to boot space, the Hyundai has a bit more, both on paper and we've measured it in reality. Both have split folding rear seats to open up more space, but the Mazda doesn't have much versatility. It's just 4 tie downs and no extra storage cubbies. The Hyundai has an adjustable floor height and an extra cubby and slightly better flexibility with more bag hooks. I'm loving the Hyundai's high-tech cabin and pragmatic execution, but I gotta say, the Mazda's premium finish in the interior is very schmick. Hopefully this next section will provide more clarity on who's leading. Cue the driving music. The Mazda CX-30 is a classy vehicle in almost every respect, and it feels solid and heavy in a good way. It's got really good road holding, and it's very settled and planted, and it has this substantial feel that you get. It's conveyed to the driver from the moment you pull away. It also motivates smoothly but strongly. The linear power delivery and strong torque from the 2.5 litre petrol engine, giving the SUV plenty of spring in its step. The engine ain't no firecracker. It's been around longer than the Pyramids, but it suits the car nicely, and the 6-speed gearbox is generally pretty savvy too. There's also paddle shifters, so you've got manual control over the gear changes, and it's pretty responsive for what is certainly not the newest 6-speed auto on the block. Plus, there's a sports mode if you want to dial up the tempo, which you probably should, because this can be a very fun and rewarding car to drive. Mazda's done a pretty good job with the suspension. It sits quite flat through the corners and the front end is responsive. You get lots of grip from the Dunlop SP Sport Max tyres too. But this agility and sportiness comes at a cost, and the ride quality can feel a little firm on rougher roads. For the most part, it's a fairly composed vehicle, but ride comfort is far from class leading. One thing the Mazda does really, really well is making you feel special when you're driving. It's quite a seamless experience. There's not too much engine noise, there's not a lot of road noise. It's a fairly refined vehicle, and little touches like the indicators, the way they flip on and off and they fade in and out, it's very nice. And also the blind spot monitoring system that pops up in the head-up display, just those little things, they make such a big difference to how you drive and feeding you all the information that you need. It's really cool. Outward visibility is pretty average, with a high window line, large A-pillar and a small rear windscreen creating a few moderate blind spots. And while the autonomous steering, braking and acceleration systems are pretty good, they're not best in class. The seating position in the Hyundai is a little higher, and through the corners it doesn't feel quite as planted. There's a little bit more body roll, but there is also a high-tech sense of occasion driving this vehicle that the Mazda simply cannot touch. Sci-fi fans are going to love this. While the Mazda has a bigger engine, the Kona has a more tractable and punchy mid-range. The Hyundai's growling turbo engine isn't quite as instant from low revs, but definitely has more power and response once you get going. The 8-speed auto also helps keep the Kona turbo in its wide power band. The Kona has steering wheel paddle shifters just like the Mazda, and its 8-speed shifts are perceptibly quicker when you do the manual override. It's also got 3 drive modes, not 2, Eco, Normal and Sport. And I'll chuck it in Sport mode, and look, it's easy and engaging to drive through the corners, but I don't think it quite hits the same sporting high points as the Mazda. It's not quite as settled through the corners, but look, it's accessible and fun to drive nonetheless. This is pretty cool. The Kumo Extra tyres shod to larger diameter 19-inch alloy wheels are wider, and this translates to confident mid-corner grip. On wet, slimy corners, the CX-30 had more wheel spin, but considering it was two-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive, it did a remarkably good job overall. The Hyundai's higher seating position, its bigger windows, its lighter steering and superior parking technology make it a better urban runabout than the Mazda, which feels more enclosed and harder to see out of. While there's no head-up display system here, I do like the advanced speed sign recognition system that not only comes up with current speed you should be doing legally, but it also pops up with all sorts of other info like give way signs and even speed cameras. And yeah, it does make a difference when you're driving. It just gives you that little bit of extra info. Hyundai no longer calibrates suspension specifically for the Aussie market, and given the sportier 19-inch alloy wheels, we were expecting average ride comfort. But it's slightly more settled and compliant than the Mazda. The Hyundai's engine is a little bit louder and less refined than the Mazda's, but they both do a pretty good job of keeping the cabin isolated from outside sounds like wind noise and road noise. You do hear the sporty tyres thump a little louder over speed bumps, but by and large, it's a more composed vehicle to drive. Visibility is marginally better in the Kona, thanks to its larger windows, but the A-pillar is likewise a problem, obstructing vision when you look to your right. The autonomous driving functions are more proactive and decisive, which makes longer journeys and freeway driving an absolute doddle. The Mazda is claimed to be a more efficient vehicle, and our testing confirmed this. The CX-30 consistently averaged mid-7s, and the Kona Turbo was in the low 8s. If the pure driving experience is what you're looking for, the CX-30 hits the target more often than not. But the Kona is a more pragmatic vehicle. It's better around town, and really, it's not that far behind the CX-30 in terms of dynamics. Despite being similarly priced, these small SUVs are very different propositions in some ways. The Kona feels more suited to families. It's bigger and more practical, whereas the Mazda is more traditional and more refined, and perhaps better suited to couples. Think of the Mazda as a professional middle manager wearing a suit. Very crisp, very clean, you know what you're going to get. The Kona, a little bit more unpredictable. That's more like a programmer or a coder wearing those annoyingly cool white rimmed glasses and probably a hoodie as well. And for me, it's that tech with a hint of edginess, the practicality and that all-round capability that gives the win to the Kona. Still the king, baby. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the other content we've got on our YouTube channel, and also like, subscribe and leave a comment if you have time. Which do you prefer, the Kona or the CX-30?